All right, let's see here. Good morning. We're going to be just hanging out today, doing a little bit of sound design and chill with the eurorack gear today. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. If you can, just let me know in the chat that you can hear me. I'm messing around with a completely new live stream setup today. So this is sort of just a test to see how it's working. And we're just going to sort of hang out and have a little bit of fun. Maybe sound design some dub techno. Hey, what's happening, Omri? Thanks for tuning in. It's great to see you. All right. If you're catching this on the replay, thanks for joining me. It's going to be a really, it's going to be a really casual stream today. As I just explained, I've got a completely new streaming setup today. We've got 3 cameras and the screen inside of Ableton Live over here. So we've got camera 1 today. We've got camera 2 today, which is an overhead shot of the entire system. We've got camera 3 today, which is a movable side camera. And lastly, we've got the Ableton Live screen. Hopefully you guys can see all of that. Hey, what's happening, Dubstation Zero? Thanks for tuning in today. All right. So I should be able to put, so I'm dealing with a completely new streaming setup, like I said. I've got, see if I can switch this over here. I'm using an ATEM Mini Pro switcher for the first time today. So I'm using 2 iPhone cameras. I'm using a GoPro, and I've also, like I said, got the screen from the Mac today. So let's go back over here. All right. What we're going to be doing is I figured we would just sort of sound design some sounds and then sample those into some of my eurorack samplers. Again, let me see if I can sort that. Okay, great. So we've got, okay, good deal. I went ahead and got a few things set up to get us started. So like if I press play on the main sequencer, my other sequencers start up in the system as well. So we've got the Electronisounds black sequencer and 2 Electronisounds drum sequencers. The goal today is to be sampling sounds and loops into these 2 sample modules here. I've got the 1010 Bitbox MK2 sampler and then another 1010 Music Bitbox MK2 sampler over here. And we're going to be sampling some sounds into those, starting with a kick drum. Looks good. How do you get the screen connected? Do you mean the Ableton screen? I'm just taking an HDMI Apple adapter from that. Then we go HDMI cable from that. It's got to be the Apple brand adapter. And then I'm just taking an HDMI cable from that into the back of the ATEM HDMI switcher. So all 4 cameras are running directly into the switcher via, so if I can stand over here, via HDMI today. Both iPhones and the GoPro. So the overhead shot here is an iPhone, and the main cam is the GoPro, and then the bonus cam is another iPhone. I tried to get a setup like this going for the live streams that I was doing way back in the day, but was never able to, do that. And for those of you who remember some of those old live streams where the iPhone cameras would just be disconnecting like every 3 seconds because they were all weird wireless connections and stuff, those were pretty janky. And so I'm hoping that this is gonna, solve all of that. I know, right? It's taken me a long time to get all of this sorted, Omri, a long time. All right. So it's going to be just a really casual stream today. It's not going to be like a hardcore tutorial where we're getting down into like really learning. It's more of just a test today to see like, how I'm doing actually switching the cameras back and forth and whether, all of the cameras stay connected during the stream. But enough jibber jabber, and let's go ahead and get started. I've got a kick drum sound wired up that I put together. Hopefully you guys can hear that okay, and hopefully we're not too loud or distorting anyone's speakers. If we start distorting audio along the way today, someone just let me know in the chat. I've also replaced the mixer underneath my setup. I was using a large Soundcraft, but that one kind of crapped out on me. So I'm trying the Phoenix Pro PTL 800 mixer today for the first. It's like a lot of new stuff for the first time. Let's just hope this tech holds. I did a review on this mixer and I really like the mixer, so hopefully that will be all good today as well. No, please, I want everyone to ask questions today. It's just a super fun chat. Using two computers, that is absolutely correct. This computer in front of me is a laptop that I'm streaming with. The other computer isn't really being used for the stream. It's just something that I do to visualize my audio as I'm creating. And let me show you what I mean. So over here on the Ableton computer, what we're looking at is take that off, I guess. We're looking at a FabFilter Pro Q3, the tonal balance control plugin from Isotope. I've got the mixed in key plugin here, and then down at the bottom I've also got just the standard Ableton tuner, which might help me tune some oscillators today. So whenever I'm creating, I typically have that Ableton open in the background, and I'm usually feeding an audio signal into that, just so I can keep kind of a visual representation on the audio that I'm creating. Especially with headphones, it gets a little bit, difficult to mix and stuff. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, tonal balance control, right? I have the same problem except with my high frequency content. So using that tonal balance control to visualize the frequencies right here can really help me keep that high frequency in content in line. But so today, what we're hearing right now is we're hearing a bass drum coming from the Electronisounds bass drum module. That's being routed into the Happy Nerding Effects Aid Pro XL, and that's running a reverb ducking algorithm. You hear that kind of air noise in the background after the kick hits? Sort of giving us that sidechain pumping effect right away from the very first sound, just the kick drum. That's this ducking reverb effect from Happy Nerding's Effects Aid mixer. Got the right camera up there, and then I'm running that into a compressor from Autodyne just to kind of glue the kick drum sound and the reverb sound together. And then we sort of go over here to the system, and I'm running that kick drum through the reverb and the compressor into a filter. This is the Ritual Electronics Alter filter here. And to get, I'm just using that filter to shave off a little bit of the high frequency content on this kick drum to get it more kind of laid back and dubby sounding for like dub techno. But to get a little bit more movement on the sound, I'm using an envelope. I'm creating an envelope from the Electronisounds right here, black envelope generator. And I'm routing the CV from that envelope into the filter cutoff CV. So we get just a little bit of extra movement as that envelope is sort of opening up the shape on this filter here. Again, the goal today is just to sample a lot of these sounds into the samplers that I've got set up. The intention is to sample some drums and percussion into the left sampler and some melodic content, bass lines and chords and stuff into the sampler on the right. This may be a really long live stream today. I don't really know how long we're going to go. But we are going to go ahead and just sample this bass drum, and I'd like to get a couple of different variations of the bass drum recorded and also a version of it running through a high pass filter. So let's go ahead and record that at this time. I'm going to see if I can bring the movable camera a little bit closer maybe. That's sort of the intention today, is that I've got all these different cameras that I can move around and hopefully show you guys like what's going on a little bit better. Let's see here. All right, that's a little bit better. Unfortunately, the brightness on these bit boxes is so bright. I wonder if I can, yeah, if I lower the brightness anymore, it's going to start flickering. But let's just go ahead and record that. All right. So you can't see the screen super great. That's something to keep in mind there. All right, let's go ahead and record this kick drum in. Just going to hit record. Get a few of those. Cool. And now I can go ahead and stop the sequencer, and we can go into the sampler here, and I can edit out just one of those kick drum sounds. So we're creating just a one shot here. I'm going to go ahead and get right in on the beginning of the sample. Sorry that the screen is so bright on this module, so that you guys probably can't see what I'm actually doing. Maybe just a little tiny bit. You can see that I'm zooming in on a waveform here. All right. Check in with the chat in just 1 second. All right. We got a little bit too much at the end there. It's because the release of the envelope on the sound is up a little too high. We take that down a little bit. And there we have it. We have one nice kick drum there. Great. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and make a variation of that. So let me go ahead and go to the next pad over. And then we've got audio input coming through. Let me just look in the chat and check the questions real fast. All right. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I appreciate you being here. So far, the setup looks like it's holding out okay. Great. So if we do the top down now, right? Okay. I'd like to adjust the envelope that's controlling the cutoff of the filter that the kick and that reverb effect is running through. Not really making the kind of difference that I was expecting here. What am I doing? Maybe I'll get one without that envelope then. Just a nice, yeah, maybe just a really nice dark one with no extra envelope on that filter. Let's do that. More resonance. All right, so this we have two different variations of the kick drum to start with. So on some of the patterns we'll have kick A, and some of the patterns will have kick B, just a little bit to keep that ear candy going. Let me go ahead and sample this kick drum into pad 2. Whoops. Cool. Now let's go ahead and edit that and trim out just one of those. All right, that second one was nice. Actually, that third one maybe. All right. All right. And let's adjust that release on the envelope here. Just a tiny little bit of release, like 0.5. Cool. And let's zoom in a bit on the kick drum. I always get a little bit nervous on these live streams and try to start going really fast and, you know, keep everybody interested and stuff like that. But I'm kind of trying not to do that today, trying just, you know, more to just get done what I want to get done and get it done correctly, if that makes any sense. Let's take a listen to what that second kick sample sounds like. Cool. So now we've got two different variations of that kick drum sample. We've got number one, which is a little bit brighter. Awesome. So we've got just a little bit of variation. I think it's really important, if you're going to be programming something out and you're expecting the listener to, keep interest for a good 5-6 minutes, you're really going to want those sounds to have some movement and have some, variation in those sounds. Okay, lastly, I do want to get a variation of this kick drum that is running through a high pass filter. So let me change that here. Yeah, that sounds pretty nice. And this will give us something that we can have even more variation, have some sections where the kick isn't gone per se, but we still have the rhythm of the kick drum, but all that weight of the low end is gone. So it sort of will, when I'm using this high pass kick, it'll sort of like lift up the frequencies and kind of help with that ebb and flow, and then we'll drop back down into a non-high pass kick, for example. Yeah, that sounds pretty good, I think. Let's go ahead and record that one into pad 3. Whoops, I did the wrong button yet again. There we go. All right, and now we can go in and edit that one. Let's see here. Maybe better on this camera. It's hard to tell. Let's go ahead and grab that one right there. Zoom way in here so I can get right in on the start point of that high pass kick sample that we just recorded, and zoom out and make sure that we get the end just right. And I need to adjust that envelope release again. Let's make that 0.5. Little click on the end of that one. Let's see if we can't get rid of that. Maybe there. Awesome. So what we've got now, let me go ahead and save this session. So we'll save those samples that we just recorded. We've got 3 different kick drum samples. All right, good deal. What let's do now is I've got, actually let me just check in with the chat and make sure I'm not missing anything. Was wondering why you wouldn't just filter with CV Live. Yeah, because what I'm trying to do is create samples. We're actually going to be unpatching everything that we're recording today as we're recording it. So let me actually unpatch all of the cables that were giving us the kick drum. I did not plan for what I'm going to do with the cables today. That was a mistake. Maybe I can just put some over the chair behind me. All right. So I'm basically just unpatching everything that was patched for that kick drum because now we have it recorded. It's just in the sampler and I don't need to worry about any cables or anything like that. Great. What we're going to do now is I've got a synthesizer here. Let me see about this camera so you guys can see what I'm doing. Whoop. All right. So this is the Prophet Rev 2 synthesizer, and I found a pad sound in here that sounds really great, and I'd like to go ahead and record that pad sound so that we can use that today. So let's take a left out. Maybe bring this a little bit closer because these cables aren't super long. All right. Cool. And this is going to be input 1, so left. And we're going to route the right channel from this into the input. So I want to record the drums into the left sampler over here. This is the 1010 Bitbox MK2. And I want to record the melodic parts today into this sampler, which is, again, the 1010 Music Bitbox MK2. So I want to record this pad. I've already got a clock signal going to both of the bit boxes, and what that allows me to do is that allows me to record loops of a fixed length. There we go. So let's see here. I can set the sampler to record like a loop of like 16 bars, for example. And then it'll record exactly 16 bars. So I see now that we've got an issue where the picture-in-picture is small again. I'm using the software manager on the ATM Mini Pro here, where it allows you to adjust the size of that screen picture-in-picture. And if I want to, I can like turn that on and put that on any of the four corners. But you see it's really small, and a minute ago it was like quite a bit larger than that. It doesn't seem to save the settings inside of the configuration app, which seems a little lame. I'm gonna have to sort of figure that out, because that's pretty small, but that's what we've got now for the rest of the session, because I can't really be swapping apps and changing that back around. So that's something to keep in mind that I've learned. All right. Yo, Nils, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in. All right. So let's see here. It's going to be a lot of just fussy camera switching today, I'm imagining. But let's see here. I wrote the patch down that I wanted to record. Let's see if I can just find where that is. I've got notes on what I actually wanted to do today. It's user 1, patch 3. There we go. That's user 2. User 1, patch 3. Great. All right. So to hear the sound, we need to take an output from this sample module and run that into our mixer module, which is the 1010 blue box. So let me go ahead and wire that up. Okay. So we'll take the left out from the bit box, and we're going to route that into the blue box. Taking the right output from the blue box. And now I can tell the mixer that track 2 should be those two inputs, inputs 3 and 4. Okay, and that should allow us to hear the sound now. If I go into recording on the blue box here and I choose the input, I'd like that to be inputs 1 and 2. And length is, I can make that a custom length, or I can set an amount of bars that I'd like to record. So I'm going to try to record this for 16 bars. Hopefully this will do what I need it to do, and hopefully we'll be able to hear this sound here. All right, and hopefully that's not too loud. Let me set this filter here. What I want is a pad sound with like pretty much like no high frequency content. I want to just have a low pass pad in the background that we can put a little bit of sidechain compression on to get it sort of moving against the kick drum. So we're just going to sample this pad here, and while we're doing that, I'm going to adjust the cutoff just a little tiny bit, and basically I just want like a 16 bars of like this with a little bit of filter movement in it. All right, now let's see if I can actually make this happen. Record threshold off, and instead record quantize 1 bar. Okay, so those look like the right settings. They may or may not be the right settings, but hopefully they will be, so that we can just get this on the first try. I guess what I need to do is I need to go ahead and set up a trigger for that kick drum sample so that we can hear that. So let's go ahead and do that before we go any further. Let me just take a trigger out from the left drum sequencer from Erica Synths and plug that in here. All right, check the levels. There is a lot, a lot to keep track of. I've got the mixer down here. I've got the mixer up here. I've got the input level over here on the laptop. So these always have a lot to sort of keep in mind as I'm trying to run the stream. A better way to connect multiple cameras to the computer to use OBS. Yeah, again, all of the cameras are plugged directly into that ATEM Mini Pro switcher, and then just one HDMI cable out of the back of the switcher into a capture card, and then into the Mac here. All right. So let's go ahead and try to record this. When I press record, it's going to give us like a, it's going to start on the downbeat of the next measure. So I should make sure that I'm, counting that off 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing to get started on the right downbeat. Let's go ahead and give this a go. This is a lot to keep track of on a live stream. Oh boy. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and yeah. 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. Now I'm going to bring the cutoff back down. 9, and 10, and 11, and 12, and 13, and 14. Come on, and 15. And 16, and it should stop, and it did, and it started playing it back. All right, let's get a little success cheer for that. All right, love it when a plan comes together. So, all right, but what we need though is we need a trigger signal that will tell that pad sample when to turn on and how long to hold that sample before it triggers another one. So to do that, because right now it's just triggering on its own, as we can hear. So let's use trigger 1 from this Electronisounds drum sequencer. I'm going to go into trigger 1. We're going to set that to hold for 4 bars, for length here, so length of 64, and we want the rate, I think, to be 1/4, and then put a trigger on the downbeat. Whoops. Not quite. What did I do wrong? Come on. Okay, hold on. That's really weird. Okay, let me see if I can sort this out here. It doesn't make any sense at all when I'm... Oh, I see. Maybe... There seems to be... Maybe I need to set this to a sample instead of a clip. Is that it? I believe that was it. I believe I had it set to clip when I needed to have it set to sample, so it was waiting for like the downbeat to trigger it, for example. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. There's bound to be some hiccups along the way, so, thanks for your patience today, everyone. Just checking in with the chat. Hey, Steve, what's happening? Hey, Big John, what's up? Question, is your headset mic XLR? Okay, so there's a very specific headset mic. This is from Audio Technica, and it is the It's the BPH S1. Now, I believe they have an S2, but the S2 is not an upgraded version of the S1. It's just a different version of the S1. And the thing with headset mics is that most of them are for broadcasters, like for football sportscasters and basketball, sportscasters and whatnot. Those jobs don't require a full frequency range of the sound. So most headphones with the built-in mic don't offer a full frequency of all the frequency ranges you're going to want, from like 20 hertz to like 20,000 hertz, right? Most of the headsets with a mic only go up to about 16,000 hertz. But this one specifically is a full range headset. Again, let me just read these numbers out one more time. So it's the Audio Technica BPH-S1. BPH-S1. And yes, at the end of these is an XLR, which is going into my mixer, and then a headphone, which is going into the headphone jack. And that's how I'm able to get, the mic to you, but for me to still be able to hear the full frequency sound spectrum. I love these. All right, so I can sort of move, I can unplug the synth here and sort of just move this out of the way. All right. Cool. So we've got this pad here and we've got this kick drum. What I want to do is let's see here. I want to take a little bit of the low frequency content rather, off of this pad. So I'm going to put a high pass filter on the pad to maybe 10%. Super gentle, just not a really big amount here, but just to sort of, keep those frequencies in line from competing with the kick drum too much. And I also would like to see if I can get this pad to sort of sidechain a little bit, sidechain duck with the kick drum. So what I need to do to make that happen is to but just put a LFO on the level of this sound. So let's do that. We're going to put source to this is going to be LFO, and then if I go to the LFO page for this sound, I can change the waveform to like a reverse saw waveform, and I can bring the depth of this down. But can you hear now how the kick drum and the pad are sort of interacting with each other? We've got kind of a bounce sort of built in. And there's just two sounds, just a pad and a kick. But again, we baked that pumping reverb into the kick to kind of start like hammering down that sidechain vibe. All right. This is great for just two sounds. We've got a tiny little bit of movement in that pad. All right. Let's go over to the sampler that's holding the melodic content. And I'm going to go to the effects for that. And I'm going to put a little bit of delay and a little bit of reverb on this pad sound. Hey, we got Project Manolo tuning in. What's happening, my friend? All right. So this is a really great start. What let's do now is let's go ahead and sample a hi-hat sound that we can use as a nice offbeat hi-hat. And let's use for that the Electronisounds hi-hats D module. I'm going to run a trigger into that module. for the open hi-hat. And let's go ahead and just program that on the upbeats kind of thing. And I just need to take an output of that now and route that into the drum sampler. Let me use, let's see here. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to take an output from the hi-hat module, and I'm going to route that into the inputs 1 and 2 of this sampler. Now if I go to, let's go to the second. Alright, now we can start to get a level on that. Messing a little bit with the tuning on that sound. Opening up the hi-hat a little. Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, let's do this rather. Yeah. Cool. So there's an open. Let's just sample that real fast. Whoops. Alright. Cool. Now let's go ahead and edit that sample so that we have just one hi-hat, one shot. And again, this is sort of an open hat. Zoom in on that. And get that right at the start point of the sample of the hi-hat sound. And now we're going to go ahead and just use a trigger from the Electronisounds. Maybe putting that into the right input would be helpful. Alright. What I want to do, let's see here. Just want to do a quick edit on this hi-hat sound. Cool. I just want to put a high pass filter on that and remove any possible like low rumble that may be hanging out in that hi-hat sound. Cool. Let's go ahead and go to the effects. Maybe put a little bit of a delay on that hi-hat. I'm gonna turn the delay up like way too much so that we can really hear it there. Then I'm going to try to adjust it to 1/8 dotted delay. Now we've got kind of a nice vibe there on the hi-hat. Now that I've got the delay time dialed in, we're going to ease back on the amount of delay, just so I can barely hear it, just a little bit more. I'm also going to crank up the reverb on that so that we can make an adjustment to the reverb. Just pulling the pre-delay up a little bit so that there's a little bit more pause between when the sound hits and when the reverb comes in. Bringing the decay a little bit less so it's a smaller reverb. Cool. Now I'm going to bring that reverb way back on those hats. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and save the project on the left sampler, and I'm going to go ahead and save the project on the right sampler. Alright, I'm going to take a second and check in with the chat. Still confused. Are you sampling everything so it's replicatable in future sets? It's just a workflow. It's just I really like, samples and whatnot, and it's just really easy to work with samples. These sounds, aren't going to change. They're just, going to be exactly what you hear every time. So, for example, if I want to like add a bunch of extra sounds on top of the samples, I can still use modules in real time over that. The goal here isn't necessarily to create a live jam per se, but to create more of a track with the intention of that from the jump. I hope that makes any sense at all. We could absolutely, not sample anything, and that would be a workflow as well. All right. What I want to do, though, is I want to get another hi-hat sample from the hi-hat module that we just got the sort of open hat from. And I just want to get a little bit more of a closed hi-hat sound in that. So let's go ahead and patch that back in, a trigger back into the hi-hats module. And I'm going to choose a different pad to record this on. Choose trigger 3 here. Cool. Now there's a really short hi-hat happening, and I'm just going to record that one. Cool. Now we're going to go ahead and just edit that sample real fast. So if I go into the sample page, and I can just sort of zoom in on that new hi-hat sound, which is our really tightly closed hi-hat sound. All right. So let me actually bring the end point down on that. There we go. Cool. So we've got the open and a more of a tighter closed one as well. I'm going to go into that closed one that we just sampled and pull the low frequencies off of that with a high pass filter. Not that we're hearing a bunch of low frequency content, but it's just, something to make sure that we're not getting any low frequency content sneaking through. And I'm going to give a little bit of reverb and delay to that new closed hi-hat, just a tiny little bit to sort of keep it in the same acoustic space as the other one, but not so much that we're just overpowering, the reverb and the delay. What I want to do now that we've sampled that is go ahead and program that into the pattern. So I'm going to take this trigger and I'm going to route that right into the sampler. And now we can program maybe some extra hats to sort of, influence that rhythm a little bit. Something that I want to do today as well is I want to make sure that we're getting a little bit of shuffle into this track. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that all of the tracks have the same shuffle setting. Save that on the drum sequencer. And maybe now we can bring the volume down a little bit on that closed hi-hat. So that I want that open hat to be more of the focus, and that closed hat behind it just to be more of a supporting sound. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a second and hear what this is sounding like on the actual speakers here rather than the headphones. Maybe make a couple of adjustments if I need to. Alright, that's sounding a little bit cleaner on my end. Alright, thanks for your patience, everyone. Just a super fun, casual stream today so far. All of the cameras are holding out, nothing's disconnecting, and we can start to, get an eye in sort of the frequency content as what's happening in our mix here by taking a look at the audio inside of Ableton. So we can kind of see a little bit of a dip here happening around the 2K area where we would really like to boost those frequencies a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the main EQ on our blue box mixer here, and I'm just going to do a gentle boost around the 2000 hertz range on the full mix at this time. I'm going to bring that up just like 2 decibels. Just a really gentle, just a little bit of a bell curve right about 2K. That's what really helps, to have a visualizer inside of Ableton that I can reference so I can really see the frequencies that we're creating. How's that sounding to you guys there in the chat? Is everything sounding okay? Hey, what's happening, John? Thanks for tuning in. All right. Is that mix sounding okay? I think we've got the kick and the pad and the hats, relatively where they need to be. What do you guys think? Sounding good? All right, thank you. Let's see here. Trying to think about what I want to do next because we have quite a lot of options here. I think maybe we'll go ahead and try to get some bass happening, and let me move this camera a little bit so I can show you guys what we're gonna try to do here. All right. So I've got some other modules here, whoops, to the side. All right, and I just figured, well, maybe I can bring this in a little bit even. All right, cool. I figured we would try to use, for the oscillator, for the bass, that we would use the Bafako kick-all. And to sequence these sounds melodically, we're going to use the Mazatron voltage sequencer. We're going to run that sequencer into a quad quantizer to keep those notes quantized to a scale. We're in the key of F minor today. And I've also got a compressor here, which will allow us to sidechain this bass sound as well. So the goal is to create some, bass grooves here and then sample those into the melodic sampler. So let's go ahead and see about getting that set up. Let's see, we're gonna take an output from, it's gonna take a little bit of, wiring here to make this happen. I'm gonna plug this into the sampler, and I'm gonna, let's see, right there. We're gonna set this length to 8 bars this time rather than 16 bars. All right, and what we need is just, one thing at a time here to get this set up. We need to start with the clock signal to get our sequencer running in time with our groove. So let's go ahead and make that happen. Let's take, I'm just gonna take a random, let's take trigger 15 here, and I'm gonna plug in 16th note triggers to that. I'm just gonna need a longer cable than this one. Here we go. All right, clock in. Cool. I don't know if you guys can see that now. Let's see if I can maybe get in here and show you. That's the point of having all these cameras, is that I really want to be able to show you guys what I'm doing. But now this sequencer over here is moving in time. If I put it to go all the way clockwise, or counterclockwise rather. Hope you can see that. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the CV out, which which is our note information, our pitch information, and we're going to patch that into the CV in of this quad quantizer here. I'm also going to take the clock out from this sequencer and plug that into the trigger in of the quantizer, so that the quantizer knows that we're changing notes on every 16th note. Alright, fantastic. It should already be set to the F minor scale. Looks like it is. Alright. So now we just need to take the trigger output from this, and we need to trigger the kick all module. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take the trigger out into the trigger in of the kick drum, and now we've got that triggering in time with our beat here. I'm going to put all of these knobs on the sequencer down to their 0 position so that we can use that to tune the oscillator in just a sec and make sure we get that in key with our track. Lastly, we just need to patch the CV out from the quantizer, that's our pitch information, into let's see here, into the tuning input of the Bifaco kick-all. So let's do that. CV out into the tuning in. Now we just need to patch the module into this compressor here so we can actually hear it. So we're going to go out from that into the in of this compressor. Now we start hearing that a little bit in the background, and if I go to the sampler over here and I tell it that we only want to record on the left input, now we're hearing that bass line in full, like in both headphone channels. Let's see here. Sounds like we're already pretty well in key here, but what I like to do is, let's see here. Let's keep that kick going. Okay, now we can hear the bass coming through. That's what I want to do is I want to make sure that the bass has got that shuffle on it, so that it's really sinking in with the groove of the other elements. So I just need to make sure that the trigger that's sending the clock information to the bass sequencer has that shuffle setting. Maybe that's a little too much. Alright, and what I want to do is just turn that down for a sec so it's not quite so loud. And then over here, I just need to make sure that that is tuned to an F. It doesn't seem to want to come through. Let me see here. I'm not getting a signal to the tuner. Of course, always something. That's really strange. It doesn't want to tune. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, this is not what I wanted to happen. I don't want to have to fuss with the tuning on this thing in real time. Come on. Alright, So uh, typically the tuner module would pick up that signal and allow me to start tuning this, but it doesn't want to. So let's see if I can figure out a different way to make that happen. I've got a tuner in the case here. I've got the data from Mordax, which is a module that can tune. So let me see if I can take this output and route that into that module real fast. These are the kind of tedious things that always get a little awkward on these live streams when stuff doesn't want to work just right. And you're like, what's going on? Like, this works every time, but suddenly you get on a live stream and it's like, no, nothing is working. So, yeah, so that's keen. So the Mordax doesn't want to register the signal from this bass either. I just need that to be an F, you know? But like it really needs to actually, you know, be an F. That's what a tuner is for. But my... Okay, so I'm just trying to think. I've got to think on the fly here of some weird way that I can suddenly make this happen. Maybe I can play an F from this keyboard, from the Prophet here, and sync it to sort of get it to match the input on that. Let's find out. Let me get that coming. Let's see here. Track 3. Okay, cool. So, I'm really bad at this. This might be the stream killer today. No, wait, I'm getting a signal now. Okay, so, whoops. Now, it is starting to register over here, whoops, on the Mac. So it's registering, whoops. All my cameras are getting screwy. Okay, so let me unplug this, because we're not going to need it, because I'm getting what I was supposed to be getting in the beginning now. Cool. So we can see here in Ableton, it sort of thinks that note is a G. I needed to think that that note is an F, so we'll go ahead and try to tune that. There we go. Now you can see we're getting down to sort of the F sharp range. I'm going to keep going down. Really subtle adjustments here. Okay. See, it doesn't want to get it when I'm... And now it stopped getting it again. It's always some sort of anomaly, right? But that sounds like it's triggering an F at this time. All right, cool. So let's get some of these notes to come through. All right, getting somewhere. All right. Bet some of you thought I was gonna fail on that. All right, cool. I swear, doing the tuning in real time is an absolute pain in the flip. All right. But what we've got here is we've got a little bit of a bass groove happening. And what I want to do is go ahead and adjust that waveform to be more of a sine and less of a square. Now, I just need to get the side chain activated on this compressor, because right now we're not getting any side chain signal. So I just need to send a signal to the side chain input. Alright, side chain in, route this over here, and then we just send a signal there, trigger select 7. Cool, now we've got a side chain happening, and let's see here. Alright, we're hearing this bass through the sampler that I'm trying to record it into, so I can bring the gain up on that a little. I think what I want to do, I'm going to try to sample this for 8 bars, and what I want to do is I think I want to be able to hear it on the actual speakers to try to get you know, the frequency right where I want it. Let's do that. Hold on. That sounds pretty good. All right, so we've got a bass that's being side chained currently. I'm gonna adjust some of the other levels in just a minute. But what I want to do basically is just try to get this in 8 bars. So I think I've got it set up to do just that. For chord monitor 1 bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. The Mazzatron sequencer that I'm using here, the Mazzatron voltage sequencer, does not have a reset. So to get the groove right where I want it, I'll need to try a few different times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 2. Let's record now, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. All right, good deal. So we've recorded that bass line now inside of the Bitbox MK2 sampler, and what I want to do, okay, all right, it's just triggering on its own now. We need to, you know, get it triggered. Let's see, let's try this one here. And let's try, what is it, trigger 5. Okay, so trigger select 5. Let's make this 8 bars. And that needs to go down to 8, I think. Okay, so what we're hearing there is the actual bass line, and what we want to be hearing is the trigger happening here. There it is. Yeah, I was trying to tune off the Mordax data there, a solid BPM, but it didn't seem to want to take the signal today. Not really sure what that's about. Okay, so I just need to, let's see here. It's, maybe I need to keep that, trigger, trigger 5. Maybe this needs to, no, that should be, hold on. I'm gonna do some counting here while I check on the triggers. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8. Do I have that set? The quantize? Yeah, I have it set to a clip instead of a sample. So it was the same problem that I had the first time. I just need to make sure that these are set up to sample and not clip. When it's set up to clip, it wants to adhere to the quantize setting to launch the clip. Whereas when it's just a sample, it just triggers whenever the sample is being triggered. So that should get us where we want to go. Yeah. So now when I press play, we've got that bass happening, we've got that pad happening, we've got the drums, but the pad is feeling a bit low. So I'm gonna try to mix that a bit better. I'm gonna go ahead and take the headphones off for a second and just try to listen to the speakers and try to get the mix a little bit more even. I'm not super stoked on the way the mix is sounding currently. I always get a little bit, the results like not what I would want 100% per se when I'm on these live streams, because I'm stressing and I'm trying to get it, you know, going. How do you guys feel about that mix? It's hard to tell sometimes. I tend to take quite a bit of time when I'm, you know, producing and try to make sure that I get everything right, like every step of the way, or as right as possible, for example. Because if I'm, you know, building a house, I want to make sure I'm building it on a very stable foundation. So I really want to put in like that time as I'm getting started to get that foundation, you know, really working together correctly. Cool. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get another version of the bassline before we move on, so that we've got two versions of the bassline before I start trying to unpatch it. Cool. All right, I'm going to record that on another pad. We're going to leave the settings on that the same, so hopefully it'll record at about the same as the existing bassline. So I'm going to turn off the bassline that's currently playing, right? Come on. 2, 3, 4. And okay, so no bassline. Fantastic. Now we can record a variation of that bassline. I like that. Let's try to get 8 bars of that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now we just need to be able to, I can unplug the bass from being recorded, and we just need to be able to trigger that new bass line on our own when we want to. So I'll get a different trigger sending to that bass line there. Trigger select 6. Oh, I see. What I need to do is to tell it to be a sample and not a clip, just like we've done with the others. And I need to make sure that that level is set to the same. So we got -4 and 5. So setting the level to the same level as the first bass line that we sampled. So now we've got two different bass lines that we can go back and forth between. Let me go back to the presets and save both of the projects on both of the samplers here. Okay, and I want to go ahead and trigger, let's see, on 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, cool. The first bass line, not the second one. Let's see if I've got that done correctly. Cool. All right, I can now unplug the cables that I used to create that bass line. Go ahead and just unpatch all that stuff here. Cool. Does it need a stabby pad? You bet it does, Steve. Every track needs a stabby pad, says Dubstation Zero. Yeah, Dubstation Zero knows what's up. Every track. All right. Let me just get a sip of water. And let's start working on some stabs, shall we? Alright, let me see if I can get this camera over to a little bit better positioning here. Cool. Alright. Okay. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Trying to figure out this new streaming setup is a little bit awkward, but I'm going to be doing another special live stream show on June 21st, which is a Saturday, and I'm going to be using this new streaming setup. So I definitely wanted to, have some sort of a test run before that show. Cool. All right. It's pad time. We're going to use a module called the Chord organ, which puts out chord pads. And hopefully we're not going to have a super hard time getting this tuned today. I am going to sample this into the Bitbox sampler on the right. So I guess the first thing we want to do is just make sure that the chord organ is playing an F minor chord. So I'm just going to route it into our main mixer here. Probably need to turn this way down. Oh my goodness. Okay, so hang on for that, everyone. Down now. There we go. Ooh, well, we might be pretty close to being in tune already. That's like playing like a seventh chord, which is cool too, but I want to do, I think, is just sort of okay, that's an F major and we want an F minor. I think that's going to do that. Let's see. It's an E major. Come on. Oh, come on. Ugh, it's really being a pain. Let's see here. Try to think this through. The issue that I have tuning this, I always have trouble with tuning. It doesn't matter what module it is really, but the problem with this one is that you've got to set the root note and you've got to set the chord, but you can't like take the chord off so that you're just hearing the root note, for example. So that makes it really difficult. And currently, mixed in key over here on the bottom right isn't really grabbing that to tell me what chord that is. which it usually does. But of course, now that we're on a live stream, it's gonna not cooperate. Let's see here. We were able to get through the issue of the tuning with the bass. Maybe I can just sort of maybe I can just sort of get lucky here. Tuning by ear is not my strong suit. That sort of sounds like turn left and count up. Yeah, I get that. The problem is that it doesn't like I can't turn the chord off. So I don't know exactly by default what chord it's playing. Like so oh, let's see here. That just sounds so close, though. I mean, is that... It seems to be grabbing it all of a sudden. No, and now it stopped. Okay. Is that it, maybe? That sounded not half bad, but for some reason, this mixed-in key plug-in on the bottom right here just isn't grabbing it. There it goes, and it thinks it's an F major. F A minor? Okay, let's try that. Whoops. Come on. G flat minor, so we're getting there. That's going to be what? F sharp then? Are we getting there? No, now it's saying E. So if I go up one, did we get it? F minor, and does it sound right? Yeah. Woo, what a pain. All right, but we got it. Those of you who are still hanging out with my tuning difficulties, I appreciate you hanging out. All right. Cool. All right, now we can get somewhere. What I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and unplug the sustained chord there. The bass line will shut up in just a sec, and we're good to go. Now what we need to do is we just need to program, we need to create, patch up an envelope to this chord so that we can, trigger an actual chord rather than a full-on sustained pad. And what we're going to do for that is, let's see, let's take the output of the chord sound and let's run that into this VCA here. And VCA is a voltage controlled amplifier, which is going to allow us to get the sound to come through this amplifier in the shape of an envelope that we set up. And let's go ahead and make some just basic settings here. And now we'll trigger this envelope and send that envelope shape to open this VCA. So we need the envelope out into the CV in here. We need the out of this to go into the sampler, so we can make sure everything's good there. And then we'll eventually route this to some reverb and delay before it goes into the sampler. But for now, let's just get it so we can hear it and start adjusting this. Let's see here. What I want to do is let's gate that from, let's just try 14. Trigger select 14. Let's get a shuffle on that. All right, and trigger 14. Whoops. All right. So we can hear now. We've got a tiny little stab thing happening, right? All right. What we want to do is we want to adjust the envelope shape to be a little bit longer. Let's do that. Oh yeah. That sounds pretty good. Hey Dean, what do you mean about what you mean about the new Poly-In Tracker Mini? Are you asking about the metal one? The new limited edition 10-year anniversary Poly-In Tracker Mini, the all aluminum one. It looks really, delicious and sexy if you ask me. I'm a big fan of the Poly-In trackers. Not only do I make, sound banks for them, but I love to use them as well. I have the Poly-In Tracker Mini, but the thing, I have the Poly-In Tracker Mini, but the thing about the, the original guy here is that it's all kind of that rubberized plastic that gets real sticky after a few years, and the buttons aren't maybe like the best quality buttons that ever existed. So, God, I can't even hold it right. So that metal one looks really sexy, but $1,000? I mean, my God, that's really, really expensive. And to be honest with you, there's a big part of me that's like, come on, Poly-In, you guys should have released that metal one as the one. Not this plastic one, and then a year or so later give us the metal one that everybody actually wanted. I mean, come on, we all want the metal one, not a plastic one. But I've already got, so many trackers here. I've got the original tracker, I've got the Tracker Plus, and I've got the Tracker Mini. I can't see, making that investment in the new one just for the metal. It does look really sexy, though. Cool. This sounds pretty decent for a start. But it's just, a really boring stab. There's no filter movement on it. There's no reverb and delay on it. And we want to get all those things happening. So what I really like to use for delay is I really like the Desmodas Versio from Noise Engineering. And for delay, I've got an Electronisounds black stereo delay. Is that not routed in here? Oh, I forgot to include that one. Okay, that's all right. First thing I want to do then is I want to filter this chord a little bit. So let's take the output from the VCA and route that into a filter. And for that, we're going to use the carbon filter from WM Devices. Okay. Whoops. Up the resonance on this. All I want to get some movement happening on that as well. Just making some adjustments on the sample settings here. All right, let's go ahead and route. Let's go ahead and route an envelope shape into this filter, so we get a little bit of movement on the chord happening there. For that, I think we can use the Nano Modules Chord envelope generator. And let's just trigger this from trigger 7, and it's really just the same 7. Okay, cool. Trigger there, and then I need to route an output of this envelope that we've just created, and I need to route that into the CV input for the filter setting of the carbon filter here. All right. Cool. I can send a little bit of saturation to the chord as well, using the saturation in the carbon filter. Maybe a little bit less saturation. There we go. HD says, I bought your sample pack dub spectrum. Oh, hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the support there. I put a lot of work into that one, and although it's really for like aimed for the Polyend Tracker series, the samples themselves will work inside of any sampler or DAW that loads samples. I had a really good time making that one. That's a really big pack, the dub spectrum pack. Thanks for the support. Okay, so what let's do is let's maybe we'll just record this dry into the sampler, the bitbox from 1010, and then we can use the built-in reverb and delay inside the bitbox to put on this, rather than trying to bake those in ourselves. Yeah, let's do that. So let's record. Okay, let's do that. Let's record an 8-bar loop of these chords, and then while it's recording, I'll try to like move the filter a little bit manually, and so we'll just get a little bit of variation baked in to the filter cutoff as we're recording these. So I think we can just press record and just record this right in. Let's find out. Yeah. All right, so we got that recorded, and now we just need a way to trigger that back. Again, what I've gotten good at remembering now is we need to change that to a sample and not a clip. All right, and that's just an 8-bar loop. We just need a way to trigger that back at this point. Let's go ahead and unplug some of these things that we used to record that chord so that got a little bit less to look at and think about here. Cool. So we got a little chord stab recorded there from the Music Thing modular chord organ. Once we were finally, God, I keep stepping out of the camera shot. My instinct is to kind of stand over here a little bit when really I need to be closer because the camera's here. All right. Now we just need to go ahead and trigger that to play back in time with our groove. And let's go ahead and do that. We'll take trigger output number 7 and trigger select. It's already on 7. Great, we can put that, but that's now on the downbeat, and it needs to be a 4-bar pattern. I believe that needs to be set to 8th notes. All right. So now the chord loop that we just recorded is playing back in time, picking up some cables that I dropped here, in time with our groove, but it's really dull, and we'd like it, to have some movement and that, dub chord stuff that we're expecting it to have. So let's go ahead and make that happen, shall we? Go ahead and go to the effects page on the Bitbox sampler. Select the chord loop now. There's some cool delay happening there. Now let's bring the reverb up on that. Alright, that's sounding pretty decent. Let's go ahead and assign an LFO to the filter inside of the Bitbox MK2. So it's doing a little bit of filtering on its own. Let's do that. Rather than just the baked in adjustments that I made to the filter while recording, we can assign an LFO to the filter of this chord stab here. I can choose source, LFO, I can choose amount, and I can tell it which direction I want the filter to move. I want the filter to close down a little bit. So let's say, I don't know, minus like 14%. And then I just need to set the speed of that LFO, the beat of that LFO, 8 bars, cool. I want it to be a triangle shaped LFO, just a really smooth up and down shape. I'm going to bring the depth down so that we're making sure we're actually hearing it, and we're actually hearing it filter that chord down a little bit. I feel like we're getting quite a bit of movement on the chord now. Let's put a little more delay on that chord. How does the mix sound to you guys who are still hanging out? Is that chord loud enough? Is it too loud? really hard to mix in real time on headphones while you're trying to keep everything under control and make sure I'm on the right camera and make sure that all the, settings are still okay. I think we're doing okay here. It sounds pretty decent. Let's go ahead and add maybe some sort of a percussion sound. I've got, let's see if I can get this over here. I've got the Roland TD10 V drum brain here. And this has got lots of cool drum sounds in it. Maybe we can sample something out of this, like a clap sound or something like that. So let's see here. Just trying to find where the claps are in these sounds here. We've got crashes, rides, tambourines and congas and bongos, and ooh, maybe this shaker, the shaker here, that could be cool too. Let's take a listen. I'm gonna, what did I do with those? Longer, here we go. Let's take a, go ahead and take an audio out here. Left. And this one is the right. There we go. Cool. And let's pick a different pad to sample into. Yeah, I like that sound. Let's just sample the shaker in. Cool. I'm gonna hit record. There we have it. So we've just sampled a shaker sound from the Roland TD10 V drums module, and now I'm going to go over here and try to just edit that real fast. Just want to get right up on the start of that sample. Cool. Let's go ahead and bring the volume on that down a little bit and put a high pass filter on it to alleviate any possible low frequencies that might be hiding out in that sample. Cool. And let's go ahead and set up some triggers to trigger that sample in the mix. Use our drum sampler here. Shorter cable. Yeah. Alright. We're using trigger 4, trigger 4. Go ahead and stop the mix here so that I can sort of hear it in key. I like that. It's way too loud in the mix. Let's go ahead and turn that quite a bit down. Just something in the very background to help the rhythm, you know, help kind of accent those hi-hats. A little too loud still. Of course, I'm on headphones, so maybe it's not, but I just want to tuck it way down in there. Maybe even further back. Way down in there. Let's put a little bit of effects on that. Just a tiny bit to sort of get it in the same acoustic space as some of the other sounds that we're working with. All right. I'm going to go ahead and save on both of the samplers that we're working with. The left sampler for drums, the right sampler for melodics. Now, let's maybe try to sample another sound out of the V drums. Like maybe a ride cymbal would be cool. I'll pick a different pad to sample into here, and we'll go back to where I just scrolled through some rides. Ugh. Turn the gain down on this a bit. It's way too loud. There it is. All right, let's sample that. Cool. Now I can go ahead and edit that ride sample real fast. Right in on the start point of it. There we go. Cool. Let's go ahead and get that triggering. Use a trigger from the Electronisounds drum sequencer here. That's trigger number 5. Alright, that is way too loud, but maybe let's check the pitch on it as well. Turning it way down and cutting off any possible low frequency content with a high pass filter. Tucking it way back in the mix. Alright, just starting to get a pretty decent groove here. Tucking that ride back a little further. Again, it's hard to mix on headphones. Yo, Wall, what's happening, my friend? Yeah, to be honest with you, like, especially with these new setups and these test streams, I don't really like to announce it so much beforehand because I'm, a little embarrassed that things are going to go wrong and it might not be a great stream or whatever. So, thanks for tuning in. So far, everything seems to be holding out okay. All the cameras are holding out. Nothing has disconnected. So that's great. Why don't we try and get a clap sound out of the Roland V drum brain, because I really feel like we need that kind of vibe to sort of accent those downbeats with like a upbeat per se. Let's see if we can find a clap in here. We've got rides, crashes. I'm just scrolling through here, trying to find like a clap sound. Some toms and stuff. Maybe it's further in. Tambourines and congas, bongos, timbales, whistles and agogos. I just want to clap. We've got timpanis, hand cymbals, triangles, wood blocks, tabla, lots of percussion here, taiko and kalimba. Okay, I must have missed them. Come on, clap. Clap. I know you're in here somewhere. Ooh, wait a minute. That's like a stick. I really like the way that sounds. Let's sample that. All right. Go ahead and get in here and edit that stick sound that we just recorded. Making sure that we get right in on the start of that sound. And let's go ahead and assign some effects to that new sound as well. Cool. Let's go ahead and get that in the mix here by sending a trigger to it. We're going to use the Electronisounds drum sequencer again. That's trigger number 6, 4, 5, 6. Change up the downbeat. Maybe not that one. Bring the volume down on that. Change the pitch a little bit. Maybe we'll I think I like that sort of off hit a little better than just a straight hit. I think it might be a little too loud still, but maybe not because I'm on headphones. Who knows? All right. Oh, thank you, Steve. I appreciate the support, you guys. Wow, we've got 18 people hanging out. Well, thanks for hanging out, everyone. I really appreciate you guys hanging out. Haven't done a stream like this for quite some time. I still really do want that clap in here is the thing. Maybe still make that happen. There's got to be claps in here. I can't imagine they'd be before the snares. Like a clap snare, but it has too much snare. I really just want to clap. Kind of an 808 stick. That's not bad, but still not what I'm looking for. Alright, now we're back to the toms. Just trying to find a clap. There's the hats. Crashes. Come on. Rides. Come on, clap. Help out a brother. I know you gotta be in here somewhere. Castanets and triangles and wood blocks. Ooh. I do like that wood block though, but that's not what I'm after. Come on. Gotta be claps in here. There we go, 808 clap. Ooh, that's loud. Let's go ahead and record that in though. And let's edit that. Get that start point right at the beginning of the sample. Cool. Just a little bit loud, so let's turn that down. And let's get something to trigger it. Trigger 7. All right. How's the level on that clap, you guys? Does that sound alright? Do you think we need more verb on that clap, Walt? It's got some verb baked in. Right. Just like that, we've got a little bit of a groove that we can start working with now by turning some of the samples on and off. And what I would do at this point is start programming some different variations in the sequencers. so that, you know, we've got like an A part and a B part with the drums type of thing. Remember that we sampled 2 different bass lines. So we might start, you know, doing 2 different patterns where we're going back and forth between the bass lines. Let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just copy pattern 1, copy, and paste that into pattern 2. Something didn't work quite right there. Make sure I have that saved, and we should be able to go pattern, copy. No? What is happening? I'm on pattern mode. Alright, that worked. Cool. Let me go ahead and do that same thing over on this side. Pattern 1, copy. Pattern 2, paste. Whoops. Cool. So this is pattern 2 then. And what we're going to want to do is just go ahead and tell this one to play the other bass part. Let's see if I can do that. Track 6. And then this bass line, which is track 5, should not play on pattern 2. Bass line is a little loud. So on pattern 1, let's take that clap off and stuff. And let's take that rim off as well. Cool, so now I can kind of go back and forth and bring those in and out. We can go back and forth and change up this bass line as well. I feel like that second one's a little too loud. Sort of a decent start for a, for a track here. Definitely need, more elements and more things to kind of turn on and off. right. I think we're going to go ahead and start wrapping it up for today. We've been going for a couple of hours. I think this has been a pretty decent test stream of this new setup. All of the cameras are still connected, which is really great. For those of you who remember, my live streams from back in the day when the iPhone cameras kept disconnecting through the whole stream. So, what I've got set up here is I've got a really large drum rack that's over the eurorack system, and that's holding the overhead camera and also some lights. Then over here on the main desk, I've got another drum rack camera system that I've been using for the overheads. So these large racks are kind of in the way and kind of inconvenient, but they're definitely allowing for some, better camera positioning. All right. So if anybody has any questions or, wants to chat about anything before we wrap it up today, now would be a great time for that. I just want to announce one more time before we do wrap it up today that I'm going to be hosting the next Electronisounds Electric Showcase. This is going to be the 4th Electric Showcase, and I'm really excited about this one. I've already got some really great sets being turned in from some of the performers, and we're looking to have anywhere from about 15 to 20 performers doing 5 to 10 minute sets each. So that show is probably going to be a 3 to 4 hour live music stream. Again, Saturday, June 21st at I think it's like noon California time, but there's already a live stream set up for that show on my channel. So if you want to catch that stream, definitely click the notify buttons because that one is going to be awesome. Saturday, June 21st. All right. So I'm not going to hang out, just waffle on. Doesn't appear to be any questions. I really appreciate those of you who have hung out. It's been a little bit of a clunky stream as I try to navigate this new setup. So thanks to everyone for your time there. Thanks Steve and Wall, and Solid BPM and Nils, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out. Dubstation Zero was hanging out as well, and HD. Yeah, some name I can't pronounce. Sorry about that. So we'll be back maybe before that live stream on the 21st, just to kind of refine the system a little bit, but definitely on the 21st for Electronisounds Electric Showcase number 4. You don't want to miss that. All right. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. So thank you very much to everyone who hung out. And if you're catching this on the replay, thanks for catching this on the replay and hanging out. All right, friends. We'll see you next time. And until then, take care of each other, everyone.